Hello, my name is Bino, and welcome to this week's Hyperlocal. Let me show you around my town, Bulacan. Bulacan is the northernmost border of Metro Manila. It is a province composed of 21 municipalities and 3 cities. From the GSI office in BGC, it may take about 2 to 3 buses to get to Bulacan. Once you get to the province, the primary mode of transport around the province would be through the trusty jeepneys or tricycles. Malolos, one of the municipalities in the province, is home to the Baraswain Church, one of the oldest in the country. Bukawe is home of the best fireworks makers in the country. Bulacan is also home to the country's most famous desserts. Pastillas de leche is one of them, a delicacy primarily made of milk and sugar. Also yema, a softer version of pastillas. Bulacan is also known for its chicharon. Usually, the meat is bashed under the sun for a number of days before deep frying. The result is the sumptuous snack enjoyed by most Filipinos. That's it for this week's Hyperlocal. Join us next week as Reb tour us in his hometown, Los Baños, Laguna. My name is Bino. Thanks for watching and keep safe.
Hyper local. Let me show you around my town, Paete, Laguna.
Paete is a municipality south of Metro Manila. You need to ride about 2 buses, a jeepney, and a tricycle to get here. Commute may take 4 to 6 hours from the GSI office in BGC. If you're a Filipino, the first thing that would come to mind when you hear this place is wood carving. Paete has centuries of history of wood carving, which is evident until now. Even my father carves, but using fruit. A kilometers away from our town is Caliraya, a man-made lake made in the late 1930s. Its serene waters and peaceful surroundings is a popular place to go for those who want to break away from the hustle in the city. Also nearby is the Pagsanghan Falls. In contrast from Caliraya's peacefulness, this place is the one who seeks adventure. White water rafting is a hit in this place during the rainy months. One of famous restaurants in the area is Aling Taleng, known all over the country for her halo-halo. The place is a hit stopover, especially during summer months. Halo-halo is a Filipino word that means mixture. Just by looking at it, I think you know what it's called that way. It is a famous dessert, especially during the hot summer months in the country. Sliced bananas, jackfruit, pearls, and flan are mixed together with thickened sugar syrup, and stuffed underneath are packed of ice. The result is a sumptuous cold dessert that cools our tropical head in the middle of the scorching summer heat.
That's it for this week's Hyper Local. Join us next week as Rev tours us in his hometown, Los Baños, Laguna. Again, this is Micah, and thank you for watching.
From the Philippines and Australia, good morning to our viewers in the US and Canada. Good evening. My name is Pancho, today's social media moderator, and welcome to #Lods. Joining me in moderating today's show are my co-moderators Kim, Malen, and Micah. And today's episode is made possible by Why Not, the podcast and enabling media. Feel free to leave your comments, greetings, questions, or thoughts throughout the show, and we'll either show them on screen or read them later during the breaks. Please stay tuned as we now transition to the main show, #Lods with Belle Baldoza.
Hi, I'm Ian. Welcome to Guild Solutions. Guild Solutions is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Guild Group of companies based in Australia. Guild Solutions itself is headquartered in Manila and offers bespoke solutions for companies that require unique or have challenging business needs. How do we do this? Simple. We hire the best people, we foster the best culture, and we give those people a new and interesting challenge every day to allow them to grow and develop and move on to bigger and better things. And for our clients, what this means, we don't see problems, we only see solutions. We think differently and we're proactive, and most importantly, we make things happen. And all the while we do this while having lots of fun. So that's a really quick snapshot of Guild Solutions. It's been great meeting you, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Laws is made possible by Why Not the Podcast? Now streaming on Spotify. And enabling media by Guild Solutions.
Hello and welcome to #Glods. My name is Jel, and thanks to all of you for watching today's show. Every month, we will feature notable people with exemplary accomplishments. As we navigate today's VUCA world, it is necessary for us to draw inspiration from people who actually made it. Today's guest is no stranger to me. I first met her when we were in college in UPLB, and both of us were members of an organization of student DJs called the UPLB Jocks. Fast forward to today, Belle is a staple name in the world of communications. She managed PR departments for Southeast Asia of notable tech companies like Spotify, Uber, and Airbnb. Belle has truly broken the barriers by achieving so much amid adversities and challenges. Now, without further ado, I introduce to you, friends, join me in welcoming live from Toronto, Canada, Belle Baldoza. Belle, how are you?
Hi, Jal. It's so good to see you again. And hello to everyone. Good morning to everyone dialing in from Manila. Hello to people dialing in from other places like Sydney, New York, and other places over there. Hi.
Thanks for staying up late for us. How's it over there?
Oh, it's actually like really we're in the heart of winter right now, so it's kind of cold these days. I'm turning up the heater. I'm still kind of getting used to the weather because we just relocated here. It's been almost 3 months since we relocated from Singapore. So yeah, right. Like just trying to get the hang of it.
I hope you're loving the snow and all.
Sometimes. Thank you for having me here.
It's our pleasure. Belle, we'll go right to the questions. Again, the goal of this show is provide inspiration for all. But again, whenever people see people who are successful and all that, sometimes they just see the tip of the iceberg. You know, that big social media picture of an iceberg with the success and all that. Sometimes they don't see what it takes to actually get there. So I think that's the goal of this conversation today. You've accomplished so much. You've been to the biggest names most of us would just actually dream of being part of that company and all that. I'm sure one of the biggest questions in the minds of our viewers and listeners out there today is, have you always thought of being in PR and communications when you were little? I mean, what was a 10-year-old Belle like?
Oh yeah, like absolutely. I actually haven't shared this a lot with everybody, but not a lot of people know that my first PR job was actually like when I was in grade school. And I was I was not voted like president or vice president, but I was actually voted PRO because of my extremely loud voice. I had my grade school nickname was Megaphone, and I had a hard time modulating my voice and like making it softer. So a lot of people like really thought that, like I had this knack for talking, like being loud, like just speaking out there. So I started, like that was like really my first job, PR job, like as a PRO, like to speak for the class in grade school. So I think like way back when I was young, like communication has been such a big part of my life. Apart from that, like I also like to express myself through writing, and like that has always been like a big part of my life. And so I think like it was more of a natural choice for me to like really pursue a career in communications eventually.
So no traditional childhood dreams like being a doctor, nurse, or anything like that?
I wanted to be a lawyer when I had a brief phase, like when I was like probably like in grade school too, of wanting to be a lawyer, like more of a criminal lawyer. I don't know why. It was like all the TV that I've been watching at the time. But then, like that kind of fizzled out. I also wanted to be a film director at some point. I wanted to be an advertising copywriter. But I think like, one of the things that I really love to do was really communicating. And so I think like eventually when I had to choose a course in college, I chose to be in communications.
All right. And when you went straight off to college, we've met in UPLB, and then eventually you moved to UPD for that dream course of yours. Right after graduation, what was your first job, Belle?
Yeah, so I think like my first job right after college was with a group of companies called the Araneta Group. So I think like a lot of people in the Philippines are actually familiar with the Araneta Coliseum, which used to be like the biggest, I would say, like sporting and events venue in the Philippines. And Araneta Group also owned other stakes in other like verticals, like they had like a chain of malls, and they had the Filipino franchises to Pizza, Taco Bell, and Dairy Queen. They also operated a beauty pageant franchise at the time, Binibining Filipinas. So that was my first job, was to join the marketing team as a public relations officer. And it was a really, like, I would say, like, for me at the time, like, it was a great first job in many respects, because it allowed me to really learn on the job and manage all these different brands across different industries. And at the same time, also learn the ropes of being in PR itself.
After Araneta Group, and I don't want this to sound like a job interview or anything like that, Belle, but I just want to give everyone a taste of what your journey was like. But right after Araneta Group, are there any other jobs that you took before you left the Philippines?
I was with the Araneta Group for almost 3 years, and then after that, like I went straight and started working overseas. Really, like it was I would say like it was my first, like, I would say full-time job, but like I was also a DJ on weekends for RJ Underground, where I was hosting a radio show during the time that I was working with Araneta Group as well.
All right. And then what was that defining moment that made you think, I think my life is outside of the country?
Yeah, so that's very interesting, right? Because like most of the time, like growing up, like all of us, like we are basically, in the comfort of our own home. Like not a lot of us like immediately think about, oh, I'm going to go overseas and I'm going to venture out there, because like, like your comfort zone is with your family, with your friends, with the people and the surroundings that you had, like, like growing up. And so I think like I started wondering what life was all about, like overseas, when I started working in my first job, because then I kind of like heard about other people, like just going overseas. I had some friends, I had some ex-colleagues who left the team to work overseas. And then I was thinking about, it might actually like not be such a bad idea to explore that, just because I wanted to see what's out there, and at the same time, I'm also like on a practical side of things. I also wanted to help out my family, and so like I was very curious about like going overseas at the time, even though I had zero clue about like what's it like to live overseas, and so I thought to myself, like, if I was going to have an opportunity to like leave the country and try out like this whole new thing of being an OFW, I'm gonna do it.
Was it an easy decision for you?
It was I would say like at the time, because like I was in my early 20s, and so I at the time like I was in this like whole experimentation phase. I didn't even I wasn't even sure like whether I was going to be staying in PR like as a career. Like it was my first job. Like I had a lot of fun. I went to a lot of events, like, but I was also very overworked and burnt out at the time that I left. And so I think like I was thinking about, what, I'm actually open to doing other things like that, maybe in marketing, like that I probably have not tried, but like anything that has to do with communications, really. So like it wasn't really like a dilemma for me to leave. And I think like, when my friend, who happened to work in Thailand, and was leaving his job, like we had a coffee. I remember this very clearly, like, just like it was yesterday. We had a coffee like one day in October, and he was like telling me that like he was going to leave his job at an American law firm in Thailand. And I said to him, like, do you need somebody to replace you? And he was like, oh yeah, like that would be a great idea. And then that was like fast forward to December, I was on a plane to Thailand, actually like taking over his job.
It sounds like maintaining networks is important, Belle. And I think this is not just true for the world of communications, but also in any professional endeavors. I think maintaining networks is very crucial. How do you actually maintain it? I mean, keeping in contact with friends and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I have, pretty much like I couldn't really like emphasize enough the value of maintaining connections. And I think like this also speaks about like, it's exactly why we're here today, Joel.
Exactly.
We've actually like kept in touch through the years. And I think like what makes it easier right now too, which I think like is, like is actually different, right? Like than probably like, I don't know, 20 years before, what is basically like we have social media at our beck and call right now, right? Like, and it's so convenient to actually like stay in touch with people. I think like in terms of, like when it comes to my philosophy, when it comes to staying in touch with people, like I actually like really make it a point to, like not necessarily like talk to people every day, but actually like make myself, like my presence felt, like, like whether it's actually like commenting on somebody's, like status, or actually like sending them even like simplest things like emojis and stuff like that. Like even when I don't need anything from them, like I just want them to know that like, oh, I'm around, like I'm actually like staying tuned to your life. And, like I somehow want to be connected. I mean, I think like it's important for people to actually like be present, right? Like, and be in the mind space of people, because like you never know, like what's, going to come around. And sometimes like, yeah, like, you could be having a coffee with a friend and suddenly this friend of yours has a job opportunity that like you might want to take on, or there might be like, I don't know, like a brand new venture that can come up like from that session. So I think like it's important to be like really, leveraging your network and actually keeping connections like with or without an agenda.
All right. Well, thanks for answering those questions, Belle. I think for the next segment, we can focus on what's life like abroad, because I think most of our listeners right now haven't really experienced moving out of their comfort zone, moving to an entirely strange place and all that, meeting new people, hearing, dealing with with other people whose English is not their first language and all that. Maybe when we come back, you can tell us more about the challenges. Maybe let's not call it struggles. That's too deep of a word. The challenges of working in another country. And how do you actually face challenges without your main support system, without your family and all that? We'll come back to that question, Belle, after a short break. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just through the first 15 minutes of the show, and we've learned so much already from Belle. We'll come back after a short break. Hashtag Lods. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Lods is made possible by Lods is made possible by Why Not the Podcast? Now streaming on Spotify. And enabling media by Guild Solutions. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Rev, and welcome to this week's Hyper Local. Let me tour you around my town, Los Baños, Laguna. Los Baños, or commonly referred to as LB, is a city some 60 kilometers south of Manila. To get there, you need to ride 3 buses from BGC office in Taguig. Home to more than 100,000 residents, the city is popular for its affinity to nature amid its scientific achievements. The University of the Philippines Southern Tagalog Region campus is located in Los Baños. It is one of the economic catalysts of the city. The university's campus itself is quite a sight. The Carilion, main campus, International Rice Research Institute, College of Forestry, and the Freedom Park are just some of the many spaces where students and alumni congregate at the end of the stressful day. Atop the mountains rests the Boy Scouts of the Philippines National Scouting Center, also called Jamboree. Its lush greens is a national protected reserve. The city is also beside Laguna de Bay. Now Laguna meaning lake, and Bay, a town south of LB. The lake is the largest freshwater lake in the country and is a source of livelihood among hundreds of fisher folks. It is also a source of fresh water for Metro Manila. LB is also known for its yummy treats. Buko pie is one of them, made from caramelized coconut trapped inside a pie crust. People who visit LB will sure bring a box or two as a pasalubong for their families back home. Now that's it for this week's Hyperlocal. Join us next week as Davey tours us in his hometown, Pasig. Again, my name is Rev. Thanks for watching and keep safe.
Yes, we're back. Thank you for staying with us. Once again, my name is Pancho. The first part of the program is very interesting as Belle walked us through her journey in the PR and communication, towards the PR and communications world. Um, if you would like to join the discussion, just comment on Facebook and YouTube. My friends Malen, Micah, and Kim will be joining the discussions throughout the show. Belle, over to you.
Thanks, Panch. And again, I'm just going to echo what Panch said. If you would like to join the conversation, our angels, Micah, Kim, and Malin are going to engage with you. And later during the show, we're going to ask questions directly to Belle from social media. Panch, thank you. Panch will come back later after the second break. Thanks. Belle, that hanging question of ours. Foreign land, no physical, family with you and all that. How is it like? Was it Bangkok that you first landed to?
Yeah, my first overseas stint was actually in Bangkok, and at the time, like I was again like in my early 20s. I had no clue. I've never been to Bangkok. Like I've not been like I've not really been to that country. So I had no idea that like they didn't really speak in English like as their main language, and so I was really shocked at first that like there was like a lot of things that I had to adjust to culturally, like from the language, because they speak Thai, like from the food because it's extra spicy. But I think like a lot of the fundamental things also that like I've had to adjust was really, like not living with my family, and doing things on my own. It was a very humbling experience. Like things like, like you had to like clean your own place. You had to scrub your own toilets. Like these are like luxuries that like some of us like, in the Philippines, like we have people to help us do. And so like those are some things that like I had to do. I think like job wise, I had to also really adjust to not actually having, I don't know, like special access to anything. Like I was answering phones, I was dealing with clients. Like it was a very humbling, like role compared to, like what I used to do at Araneta, where I had like, like I did a lot of, like a lot of events. And so like I had a lot of backstage access to these events, very exciting, fast-paced job. Then in Thailand, I was mainly like answering phones and dealing with clients. So that was also like really, like a very humbling experience. And it also like really taught me that, oh my God, like the world is so big. Like, like you step outside of your bubble, you're going to like really realize that, like you're this small speck in the world. I think like from a character building perspective, like I think that living overseas and dealing with, like different people from different cultures, also taught me to step out of my, step out of my comfort zone in a way that, like take out I would say some of the Philippinisms that are not that good. Like, things like Filipino time, and actually like being late to things. I mean, I'm not saying like everybody's late, but like we have this habit of, like we're gonna text that person, we're gonna let that person know like that we're on our way, even though we're not, or like things like that. Like it taught me to be more punctual, to be more respectful of other people. Living overseas taught me to be more respectful of other people's time. Living overseas also taught me to speak up more, and not necessarily like be diplomatic all the time. I think like it's important to exercise candor in the workplace and tell people like what's on your mind, because if you don't tell them or don't give them direct feedback, then you won't arrive at a solution. I think like, I would say like, growing up, I was trained to, avoid confrontation, and not necessarily, ruffle any feathers. And I like dealing with different people from different walks of life, especially like people who have, I would say like a more outspoken culture from the West, really taught me that like, hey, you know what, like that's something that like is important. It's important to really like speak your mind, and tell people exactly what's on your mind, so that like you can arrive at a solution that actually like works for both parties.
Belle, your experience in Bangkok seems to be the let's call it the gateway to many other opportunities in Southeast Asia. But where do you draw the courage from? When we were in college, I'd remember that one time when I experienced, and I think that's the reason why I invited you over for our first episode. Whenever I experience a roadblock, you'd always gonna say, "Jel, that's just grit and fortitude. Get over it." But where do you? If you would remember, but where do you draw that courage from? How do you overcome big monsters ahead of you?
I think like for me, like I think that I've actually like not also had an easy life growing up. I think like I lost my dad like at a very early age. when I was 12. And so like from then on, like as the eldest person in the family, I've had to assume like a more like grown up, like out, right? Like I had to grow up overnight. And so I think like that was like a catalyst that served to like spark a lot of courage in me to really like, like brave the odds, because I think like what I wanted to have was actually like a better life, like in the future. And so I never let like challenges deter me, because I felt like, I've actually already like experienced a lot of, like this massive loss in my life. And I'm able to get through it. And so I think like, any other challenges that is presented to me, like I'm surely going to get over it if I just try hard enough. That's what my philosophy evolve into. And I think like that's also like really something that is still guiding me until this day.
How long did you stay in Bangkok, Belle?
I was there for almost 3 years. And
wow,
then
also quite long, isn't it?
Yeah,
did you like
well, it was yeah, like I would say, well, compared to my stint in Singapore, fairly short now, but yeah, I think like I could have stayed longer, but that's where I met my then boyfriend, now husband, and
right, yes,
yeah, and it was his bright idea to move to Singapore. He is Malaysian, so Singapore and Malaysia have a very like I would say like not like exact same culture, but like they have a very complementary, similar cultural heritage, and so like he believed that there were a lot of opportunities in Singapore for the both of us. And so I packed my bag and just went with him really to move to Singapore with my tourist visa.
There you go. Well, that was supposed to be my next question. So thank you for the good segue. So he's the main influence in convincing you to moving out of Bangkok again, pushing you out of your comfort zone. I think one way or another, life will give us people who push us out of our own comfort zones, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think like it's important. Again, like this emphasizes like the importance of these connections and the people that like, would motivate you and support you along the way.
Yep. And then you moved to Singapore.
Yes.
What was it like, Belle?
Again,
the first time you stepped foot in there?
Again, Singapore was a place that I've never been to before I went there. And so I remember very clearly, like when I went to Singapore on that one-way ticket with my then boyfriend, I was very nervous because I was afraid that like they would ask me a lot of things at immigration because I only had a one-way ticket. And so that sigh of relief that like I had like after immigration stamped me for 30 days. So like I still remember that to this day. So, like Singapore at first, like I would say like, was not as exciting compared to Bangkok. It was however, it was very safe. Like it was so convenient to get around. It was multicultural. So I actually like learned to love it, through the years. We didn't have an easy start at all in Singapore because, as I said, like we came there on a tourist visa, which meant that we only had 30 days to look for a job.
Yep.
Yes. We had 30 days to look for a job. And also at the same time, like I was thinking, oh my God, like if this 30 days expires, like if I don't have a job and my boyfriend doesn't have a job, like what's going to happen to our relationship? So that was also like, so not only was our career hanging in the balance, but also our relationship. So it actually like brought a lot of pressure to us over the course of those 30 days. But yeah, thankfully, like I landed 2 job offers in 3 weeks, thankfully. So that was good. And from then on, like we were able to slowly build back our lives in a new country again.
I think that's a good point that we need to raise to our viewers, that sometimes, actually most of the time, and most especially if you're just starting with your career, opportunity actually only comes to you when you look for it. It doesn't actually present itself, wrapped in a golden wrapper and all that. And you had to look for it for about 3 weeks in Singapore. What was your first job when you went to that country, Belle?
Yeah, so I was a business consultant at Mindshare. So Mindshare
Mhm.
is a global media company, and they had this division called like it was basically like more of a business intelligence division where they do a lot of consulting for their clients, and they actually were looking for this role. The role is called culture vulture. It's a real job. That was what was advertised. And this culture vulture is supposed to be managing a team of bloggers from an editorial standpoint, so that they can distill like insights, trends in popular culture, basically like what is hot, like what's cool, so that like they can advise clients like Nike or Kimberly Clark like on what to do next, like when it comes to their brand strategies. So like with my background, like in editorial, as well as communications and digital, I was considered for the role, and it just so happened that like my hiring manager was also somebody who just relocated to Singapore at that time, and so I think like she probably like found that kindred spirit in somebody who also just moved there. So yeah, like they took a chance on me, and I joined the team.
That's great. And then was Spotify the first big name that you actually got into?
Yeah, so Spotify is technically like my first tech company, and I joined Spotify like after 2 years of being in Singapore, and it was it's very interesting because actually like why I ended up like joining Spotify was because I got rejected. I had a big, like a massive like rejection after a whole like round of interviews at Facebook. I
Oh,
was, yeah, like it was a massive rejection that led me to my first big opportunity in tech. And I remember like I was doing interviews like at Facebook then, like, and I saw a job ad on LinkedIn for a PR manager at Spotify, and because like music has been such a big part of my life growing up, music and writing in particular. And so I've been watching Spotify like since they've been, like launched globally. And I was very, very curious about when they would be available in Asia. So when I saw that like they were looking for a PR manager, I was very interested. However, the job ad like explicitly said, the person that they're looking for has to speak Mandarin, and of course like they had to have tech PR experience. So I basically had neither. Like I wasn't speaking in Mandarin, I had zero tech background because I did PR for lifestyle brands. But then again, after that big rejection that I've had, I thought I'd send my CV, and why not, right? Like it won't hurt. And 3 days later, I've had the recruiter at Spotify like approached me, and we had coffee. And the first thing I said, like as soon as we sat down, was, I'm going to tell you a couple of things that like I need to tell you this like before we proceed further. One is I have zero tech PR experience, and I don't speak Mandarin. But then after that, like I started talking about my love, like for music, and how I was very, very excited about Spotify's launch in Asia. And so I think like he saw something in me that kind of led to me being selected out of, like several people who were applying for the same role, to take on this really exciting job at Spotify.
What was it like? First day in the job, Belle. Big tech company, totally different environment. What was it like?
Oh my God, I was overdressed. That's what I remember. First day on the job, I was overdressed. Like I had because I came from like a PR agency, like where you had to dress up a fair amount. And so like I came to, like day one Spotify, and they had they were in a service office because usually like tech companies that just launch in Asia, like they don't have an office yet. So they have to rent a service office of a few desks. And so I had zero clue that like it was a 4 or 5 person office only. And so I wore like killer heels. Like I had this like really like nice black, like little black dress, like I was dressed in the nines. And then I stepped into this 5-person office with cables like all around. And basically like people were like, oh, hi, welcome to Spotify. And I was like, oh, like I had like something else in my mind, and I realized, oh my God, I totally overdressed for this. And so yeah, like but it went better from then on. I started, wearing hoodies eventually and other things apart from, like killer heels.
And then Uber happened, and then Airbnb. Among all of these three companies or big tech companies that you've been with, let's also not forget Netflix, which is also a big name here, not just in Southeast Asia, but also here in the Philippines. What was the most challenging project you managed, Belle?
Yeah, oh my God, like there's so many, but I would say that like one of the projects that like I wouldn't just say challenging, but also rewarding, and something that I'm really proud about is being able to have spearheaded the market launches, the PR-led launches, because when we launch, these companies launch in markets, like it's always like led by PR and marketing, and so. Like I was really proud to actually have spearheaded the PR launches for Netflix and Spotify in the Philippines. I think like that was like something that it was very challenging because like have to work with a lot of cross-functional stakeholders, but at the same time, like it also gave me a sense of personal pride because it was more of like a 360 like moment. It was more of, actually the opportunity to bring something exciting to your, to your people, to your, to your own country, and that like this is going to be big. Like that was like something that like I actually like had a lot of, like pride in, and I was really like, that really like drove me a lot to do my best in my work. So I would say like those were like some of the most exciting, rewarding, but of course like challenging, projects that I've actually been fortunate to work at.
In any of these big tech companies you've worked with in the past, Belle, was there ever a time you had to launch a project in the Philippines and you had to come to the Philippines to facilitate that project? And what was it like? Because, this is the first time, hey, I'm going to go back to my motherland, but this time I'm representing a big tech company. What was it like?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the PR launches for Spotify and Netflix in the Philippines, I've actually had to go back and supervise with my team, like all of that. And I've had to basically, help like manage a process from end to end. It was really exciting to not only get a chance to meet like your old friends from the media industry because I started my career in the Philippines, but at the same time like also be able to spend time actually like with my family while I was home as well.
Belle, was there ever a time you ever stepped foot in Silicon Valley?
Yeah. So basically,
what was it like?
So a lot of the tech companies that I've actually been at, like, were born out of Silicon Valley. And so part of, I would say, the onboarding process of these companies is to send new team members for an immersive, opportunity to get to know the ins and outs of the company. So like getting to know the different like departments, like actually having like an orientation, but like usually like these orientation sessions are spread out over the course of a week. So my last orientation that I've attended was in San Francisco with Airbnb. And that was like really fun. That was like in 2019. I think like I came just at the time that like they were having a Halloween celebration as well. So like the entire company was like decked out in Halloween costumes, including the founders when we also met. And usually like these like visits to Silicon Valley are really like a good way to further understand a company, because like you are based really far away, and most of the time, like I join these companies at a very, very early stage. Like think about that Spotify office of 5 people, or think about like Netflix. When I joined Netflix, like there were only 4 people in the office as well. And so it's kind of really putting everything like in a bigger picture when you go to like the headquarters and see how everything works together.
Mm. Have you ever met any notable celebrities during your stint in these tech companies?
Yeah, I've been fortunate to actually meet, like quite an amount of celebrities. I think like it's probably like too many, several to mention, but one of the most exciting things that like I probably had done was to actually join and support a media junket that Brad Pitt did in Tokyo.
You met him
on Netflix. So that was actually, I remember this like very clearly, like happening around like close to my birthday, and I was working and I was just like, no, that's okay, I'm fine with working, because Brad Pitt is just around me.
Of course.
That was fun.
Mr. Smith himself. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it was really fun. And we also had like a Filipino journalist join us for that junket. And we had a great time.
Belle, I'm pretty sure you've had a lot of experience. You learn a lot from these tech companies, and at some point in your life, you'll realize it's about time to pay back. Was that the main motivation why you came up with Why Not the podcast?
Yeah, so basically, I think one of the things that like I really like constantly, I would say, champion like throughout my career, especially as I grew more into my career, was seeking opportunities to give back, right? Like to my community, to my network, because like I don't believe that like I've actually like been on this journey alone. This journey was only made possible by people who supported me, believed in me, motivated me along the way, and so I think like informally before I launched Why Not a Podcast, I've been doing, and still up to now, I'm still doing like mentoring sessions, like I would say like that's something that like I just do, like because of my own free will on my own free time. So I was thinking that like, I've actually been thinking about having a podcast like since like 2016 when podcasts like were still a very nascent medium, but unfortunately I never had the time to actually really sit down and put it together. So when I had the time to put it together in the midst of a pandemic, because I had pretty much I was not traveling for work, I was pretty much grounded, and I had a bit more time to put things together, I was thinking about what would be useful. What kind of show would be useful to like to an audience, like what would people want to hear, like, or listen to? And I kind of thought about, what, I think like it has to be something that I'm truly passionate about. So I kind of did a little reflection on what would that be. And I landed on something very simple. And it's, it came back to my own personal philosophy. So my personal philosophy has always been guided with heeding a simple question, which is why not? And I thought that like, why don't I make this podcast, like all about an exploration of stories of different people who've answered their own why nots in different ways. And so there you have it. It was like something that like was truly like inherent to me and my passions. It was something that I believed in. And at the same time, it was something that also resonated with several people. That's why I was able to like get a lot of guests for the first season as well. So yeah.
Well, is season 2 in the horizon?
Yeah. So, like now that I've had a bit more time to, focus on, had a bit more time to pretty much finish up, like this whole relocation thing here in Toronto. I'm thinking about like what would be like the focus of season 2. I think like I would still like love to focus on stories of brave and bold people who've actually like heeded the call of the question, why not? But like I wanted to have like a a specific focus area. I'm still like searching for, pretty much like story ideas. So if you have any story ideas for me, I'd love to suggest. And please email me at hello@whynotpodcast.com. I would love to have your suggestions.
And why don't you invite everyone to your podcast, Belle?
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to, pretty much like share a little bit about Why Not the podcast. If you are looking for a dose of inspiration and want to listen to stories of people who have, pretty much, I would say, traverse uncertainty, like heeded the call of why not as a question in their different ways. Please have a listen to Why Not the podcast. It's available on your favorite podcast channels and also at whynotthepodcast.buzzsprout.com. And you can also follow us on all on our social media channels on Instagram, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn at Why Not the Podcast.
Thanks very much, Belle. Well, that was a very interesting talk. And 48 minutes just passed by. I still have so many questions. I loved it. But hey, we're just going to go on quick break. When we come back, Pancho will go over social media questions and Belle will, answer questions directly from you guys. So type in your questions on Facebook or YouTube. After this break, we're going to come back and answer them all. See you guys in a bit.
Laws is made possible by Why Not the Podcast? Now streaming on Spotify. And enabling media by Guild Solutions. We'll be right back.
Hello everyone, my name is Davey and welcome to this week's Hyperlocal. Let me virtually tour you around my town, Pasig City. Pasig City, or also known as the Green City, is a part of the greater group of cities that constitute Metro Manila. From the GSI office in BGC, it will only take you 30 to 40 minutes to get here by riding a UV Express. Being considered as one of the business districts in the country, Pasig also offers a wide array of attractions for all of its visitors. Our first stop is the Rave Pasig, or also called Rainforest Adventure Park. It is a public park with a forest-like atmosphere that offers recreational activities such as rappelling and wall climbing, boating lagoon, chess area, zip lines and train rides. This park also contains a zoo, a swimming pool, and a playground which is a perfect place for a family getaway. Pasig City is also a home of historical sites. One of its paragon is the Pasig Cathedral, canonically recognized as the Immaculate Conception Cathedral. This stone church was built in the early 1700s and considered as the first Marian parish in the Philippines. Nearby is the Pasig City Museum. This former colonial mansion, which was used as a detention center during World War II, has been converted into a museum to showcase Pasig's rich history of culture and arts. One of the most spectacular and anticipated electronic float parade during Christmas season is the Paskutitap, the parade of Christmas lights and sound. It is an annual holiday event that features a number of themed floats perfectly designed and built by some of the country's famous artists and other props by the students. Each float is accompanied by participating students with magnificent and ravishing outfits. Well, that's it for this edition of Hyperlocal. Tune in again next week as Jen tours us around her hometown, Lubao, Batangas. Again, this is Davey. Thanks for watching and keep safe.
Yes, hi, we're back. You're still tuned in to hashtag Lods. We surely learned a lot from Belle as she shared her insights on working offshore, learning different cultures, sharing her experiences, spearheading PR works for these big global brands. and realizations professionally and in life in general. Also, she gave us a glimpse on of what's in store for season 2 of her podcast. Why not? I think we have some interesting questions from our viewers and moderators. Belle, are you ready?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Maybe.
This
Go
one
for it,
is
Panch.
from first question is from our Chief Executive Officer Ian Moses via Facebook.
Ah,
Um, what do you see as the biggest challenge for comms departments right now in connecting with the staff and the broader community?
Yeah, this is a really good question. In light of the times, the extraordinary times that we're in right now, so I'm going to put on my comms hat for this one.
Mhm.
I think like it's important. Like I think like right now, like the biggest challenge is actually like displaying and balancing the right amount of context when you communicate. Like your business decisions externally, and also like showcasing compassion. So whether it's actually like not just doing CSR, but simple like things like having a business decision that actually leads to reorganization or restructuring. I think like it's important for comms leaders to balance the right amount of context and showcasing compassion when they actually externally communicate these decisions, and basically like have a think about like how this impact their brand as well.
Mhm.
all right. Thanks, Belle.
All right. Next, let's jump into the next question. This one is from Yula Ebias via Facebook. Hi, Belle. I'm a fresh grad aspiring to be a teacher. Can I ask for any tips on how can I engage my students or audiences?
Oh, hi. Congrats to your, like a recent graduation, Eula. I think like what would be great, what would be a great start, like when it comes to engaging, like students or an audience, is actually like finding your voice and finding something that like you genuinely want to talk about online. I think like I talked about earlier about like how social media right now is at our beck and call, and it's actually like a really great tool for making important connections. And I think like that's something that like you can surely utilize, like if you actually have like if you want to share like an authentic story or something, like you want to share something that you're truly passionate about. I think like it's important for you to find that first, and like develop that story. How does that passion point ladder up to your story, and from there like you would have a great starting point for engaging other people as well.
Mhm. We also have a question from one of our moderators, Micah Sutare. Hi, Belle. Have you experienced downfall in along your journey, and how do you handle it?
Absolutely. I think like Jal, pretty much encapsulated it at the start of the session that, like a lot of people, see the very glittery side of these, like amazing tech jobs, so-called dream jobs. But not a lot of people also know that like there's also a lot of struggles, a lot of challenges behind it. I think like one of the recent things that like I've had to deal with that was really challenging on a personal and professional level was when my tenure at Uber was cut short because of a merger with Grab. And this happened in 2018. And the entire merger happened while I was at a work trip and a vacation afterwards in Manila. And so basically like we were informed in the morning that like we're merging with Grab, we have to collect our things in the afternoon, and we were essentially like we were presented with a choice whether to join Grab, and it was like really like hard for me because it was not something that I've encountered. It was not an experience that I've encountered in my career during that time so far. And so I've had to like really draw on, like courage and confidence in my abilities to know that like I will find a good job, even though I have not decided to join Grab. Because I'm not like it was just not something that like I wanted to do after the merger. But yes, definitely there's a lot of struggles, and that's really like what makes like the whole journey exciting and rich.
All right. Um, this interesting question coming in from Kim Regala, one of our moderators. This is a common struggle. How do we deal with digital fatigue?
That's a great, very, very timely question.
Mhm,
And it's something that I'm actually personally, I would say, like also struggling with myself. So thanks for
mhm,
that. I think like that's, what I try to do though, is not necessarily going cold turkey on all my devices because that would definitely like backfire, especially like if you love, connecting with others on social media. I think like it's important to really monitor, like your screen time. I think like that's something that I'm consciously doing these days. At least like making small incremental changes to your relationship with your phone. So for example, like like not necessarily like scrolling at night when it's supposed to be your bedtime. I think like it's I'm trying to delineate bedtime and like actual like phone time. And so I think like try to do this like gradually and not necessarily like force yourself into it. And you're probably gonna find a rhythm that works for you.
all right. Unfortunately, that's the only time we have for questions.
Ah.
Aww.
But thank you so much for moderating our social media channel together with the angels, Micah, Kim, Malen. To our viewers, thanks for the questions.
Yeah,
All
thank you.
right.
Mhm,
Thanks, Patch.
mhm.
Excellent recap, and thanks to our viewers who are staying throughout this show. Belle, before we wrap up, it's still the pandemic era. Many people have lost their jobs. Very difficult to empathize and all that. Um,
Absolutely.
what's your tip for people who are watching this show who's looking for inspiration right now, who's looking for hope? Many people have lost their jobs, still looking to find a way to move forward and all that. Where can they draw the courage to move forward?
Yeah, so I think like 2020 has definitely not been a walk in the park for anyone. I think like it's
That's a
important,
nice way of putting it.
but everyone has a different journey. But I think like I've actually like distilled like three things that probably people might want to think about as they map out their own career and life journeys. I think like we touched on one earlier. Like I talk about these three C's, like, but we touched on one earlier, which is connections. Never underestimate the power of your network. Again, like whether or not you have an agenda, like it would be great to stay connected and also do favors for your people in your network because you never know what goes around comes around. And like the more good you do, the more it will come back to you. I think the other C is also creativity. I think it's important to harness creativity, not just in an artistic way, but I think like it's more about to rethink the way that you do things. I think like it's important to always stay curious and have an edge to the things that you do. You don't necessarily need to do things in a cookie cutter way or just tick all the boxes. So find that way that is unique to you and is authentic to your voice. And thirdly, I would say that it's like, and this is like something that I truly believe in. The third C is about confidence. Be assured in your own abilities and believe in your own passions. And eventually, like you'll find a company, you will find like a company, an organization, or a cause that actually like aligns with you. And it's only like when you have this confidence and a healthy dose of self-awareness that you're going to be able to map out your journey, like define your own boundaries and really carve a story that is all about you and what you believe in, and it will lead you to the right place eventually.
Belle, I can't say thank you enough. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences, your thoughts with us today. For a person who's staying up late for us, you still have that energy as if it's just 10 a.m. So thank you for staying late for us, and really, really appreciate it, Belle.
Oh, no problem at all. Like, thank you so much to everyone who's joined today too. I hope that like you've learned something, from this session. And like if you have any other questions, like feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to like answer any other questions you might have.
Once again, thanks, Belle, coming in from Toronto, Canada. Good night to you, and see you soon.
See you soon, Jal. Thank you.
Friends, this is Lods, a show that aims to inspire today's generation. Thanks to all of you who watched us today. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions about today's episode, please email us at makethingshappen@guildgroup.com.au. Next week, this show will be made available as a podcast on our official channel on Spotify. On behalf of all of us in Enabling Media, a division of Guild Solutions, Inc., together with our director and executive producer, Sam Sopare, our social media moderator for today, Pancho Madlen Sakay, and our angels, Kim, Micah, and Malin. My name is Jel. Thanks to all of you for watching. Good night to everyone in America and Toronto, and good morning to all of you here in Asia. Thanks for watching. Maraming salamat po.
Lods is made possible by Why Not the Podcast, now streaming on Spotify, and Enabling Media by Guild Solutions. Catch this show next week as a podcast on Spotify. Lods is a proud production of Enabling Media. For comments and suggestions, email us at makethingshappen@guildgroup.com.au.